High atop a mist-shrouded mountain, a profound gathering that would affect countless beings was unfolding. The sound of the wind through the pines seemed like celestial music accompanying the Buddha's deep and compassionate teaching. Enlightened figures from many realms came together, celestial beings, monastics, and devoted lay followers. Most notable among them was Maitreya Bodhisattva, destined to become a future Buddha. As the gathering neared its conclusion, Maitreya rose, joined his palms, and asked what appeared to be a simple question with boundless depth. Teacher, what is ultimate liberation? The moment he spoke, everyone fell silent, keenly aware that the Buddha's response could illuminate the path to nirvana in a single phrase. Seated in serene composure upon a lion-shaped seat, the Buddha radiated calm. His senior disciples were nearby, Sariputta among them, while in the distance, hundreds of sincere seekers listened intently, not daring to show even a hint of inattention. It was an extraordinary assembly, for not only were the Buddha's regular disciples present, but practitioners from many world systems had also gathered. A short while earlier, the Buddha had delivered a subtle discourse saying, "All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, or a shadow, like morning dew or a flash of lightning. Thus should you observe them." His voice, though gentle, resonated in every listener's heart, prompting deep reflection. In this hush, Ananda quietly asked, "Teacher, if everything is like an illusion, why do we practice day and night? What are we ultimately seeking?" The Buddha smiled. "Ananda, it is precisely because all phenomena are insubstantial that practice is possible. If they had solid essence, it would be like iron chains impossible to break. Because they are empty, we can transcend them." Ananda bowed, contemplating this further. The hall grew silent again except for the soft rustling of trees in the breeze. It was then that Maitreya Bodhisattva stood and respectfully bowed. "Teacher, I have a question that I've wrestled with for many years. May I ask for your guidance?" The Buddha looked at him and replied kindly, "Maitreya, ask freely. This is the spirit of a true seeker." Maitreya answered, "Teacher, I have studied countless sutras and entered deep meditation to examine my own mind. I understand the teaching that the aggregates are empty, and I see the truth of impermanence. Yet one question remains: what is ultimate liberation?" A weighty silence filled the hall, for this was the very question countless practitioners had pondered. Why do we practice, and what exactly is liberation? Even the attendants at the door leaned in to hear, aware that this inquiry touched the heart of every practitioner's search. With an unfathomable gaze, the Buddha spoke. "Maitreya, you raise a profound question. Words alone cannot fully express it. First, let me ask, in all your years of practice, how do you currently understand liberation?" Maitreya thought for a moment. "I believe that liberation involves eradicating greed, anger, and ignorance, transcending the cycle of rebirth. So we no longer face the pain of birth and death. Yet I sense this only scratches the surface." The Buddha nodded gently. "That is partially correct, but not complete. Sariputta," he said, turning to one of his foremost disciples, "you are praised for your wisdom. How do you understand liberation?" Sariputta stood and answered, "Honored teacher, from my perspective, liberation means realizing the emptiness of self, other, living beings, and any sense of a separate soul, so we aren't bound by any form." "Excellent," the Buddha praised, then looked to another senior disciple. "Mahakashapa, what is your view?" Mahakashapa, renowned for his ascetic practice, replied, "From my practice, liberation is letting go of all attachments, so the body and mind are peaceful and untainted by the world." Then the Buddha turned to Ananda. "You have followed me closely and are noted for your keen memory. How do you see liberation?" Ananda respectfully replied, "Teacher, I believe liberation is returning to our inherently pure state, unmoved by external situations or internal disturbances, like a lotus that remains pristine despite growing from mud." The Buddha listened, nodding in approval, but gently waving his hand. "All of your answers have merit, but none reveals liberation in its fullest sense. Liberation is not just ending afflictions or merely understanding principles or simply giving up attachment. A younger monk could no longer contain his curiosity. "Teacher, if it's not any of those things, what is it?" Without a direct reply, the Buddha looked around with deep compassion in his eyes. All of you should consider why I have taught for so many years. If liberation could be stated plainly, would there be need for so many teachings? If nirvana could be captured in a few words, would there be so many methods of practice? The group reflected in awe. Indeed, if liberation were so easily explained, why would the Buddha devote years of tireless teaching? A senior monk then spoke up respectfully. Teacher, we have always believed that we practice to attain liberation or nirvana. Is that not so? The Buddha offered a kind smile. If you make liberation a goal to acquire, that is already an attachment. How could that be true freedom? If you treat nirvana as something to chase, that very pursuit becomes a shackle. How could that be true nirvana? This declaration struck the assembly like a sudden clap of thunder. Everyone exchanged thoughtful glances, realizing they faced a profound puzzle. If even aspiring to liberation can become an attachment, what, then, is the purpose of practice? Maitreya spoke again. Teacher, if striving for liberation itself becomes a form of bondage, what is the meaning of our practice? The Buddha gazed at him kindly. Maitreya, that is indeed the crucial question. Practice is not about acquiring anything. It is about recognizing what is already present. When you go searching for liberation, you move away from it. When you chase nirvana, you distance yourself from it. Many monks with shorter practice histories looked puzzled. One asked, Teacher, if seeking liberation or nirvana is incorrect, why do we devote ourselves to constant practice? Instead of answering directly, the Buddha lifted a single lotus flower for all to see. Nobody knew quite what to make of it, but Mahakasyapa broke into a knowing smile. Mahakasyapa asked the Buddha, Why do you smile? Mahakasyapa replied, Teacher, that lotus wordlessly shows us that liberation cannot be fully conveyed by language. The truth lies beyond words. The Buddha nodded approvingly. Exactly, but we still must address Maitreya's question, for it represents a fundamental concern for everyone present. Several newer practitioners began whispering among themselves. They had long believed the aim of practice was to free themselves from the cycle of birth and death and arrive at nirvana. The Buddha perceived their anxiety and spoke compassionately. There is no need to be alarmed. Let me ask you this, if a person is ill, why does he take medicine? A monk replied, Of course, to cure the illness. The Buddha continued, And once the illness is cured, does he need to keep taking that medicine? No, the group responded. Exactly, the Buddha said. Practice is like taking medicine, and liberation is like the state of being healed. Once you are well, you naturally set the medicine aside. There is no need to force yourself to let it go, nor to obsess over having put it down. If you fixate on the idea that you must discard it, that fixation itself becomes another type of attachment. This analogy brought a measure of clarity to many. Still, Maitreya remained concerned. Teacher, he asked, if, as you say, liberation cannot be directly pursued, how should we go about our practice? Every eye turned to the Buddha, recognizing that this question was pivotal for their entire path. The hall grew so quiet that even the faintest sound would have been heard. Maitreya waited earnestly. He knew the question touched on the deepest core of genuine release from suffering. The Buddha briefly closed his eyes, a mysterious smile forming on his lips. Then he opened them, and his voice carried a calm yet powerful resonance. He spoke a single sentence that fell upon everyone's ears like a thunderbolt, instantly clearing their minds. Liberation is right here and now, complete in itself, received neither from outside nor from elsewhere. Though spoken softly, those words dissolved layers of confusion, warming every heart present like sunlight melting ancient ice. Simple as it sounded, that statement became a key that opened countless inner locks in an instant. Some monks wept with relief, others bowed repeatedly in gratitude. Some knelt in silent awe, as though an immense burden had been lifted. Maitreya Bodhisattva too felt a surge of clarity. He finally understood why all his years of earnest practice had left him feeling that something was missing. He had been searching for freedom somewhere outside, forgetting to return to the inherent freedom of his own mind. Observing that many had been moved by this insight, the Buddha continued, I have spoken countless teachings throughout these years to convey one essential point. You are already awakened. Liberation resides in your own mind. Nirvana is not a distant shore, it is right here. You are not lacking anything, you simply need to recognize what has always been true. Sariputta ventured a question, Teacher, if liberation is already complete within us, why do we still need to practice? The Buddha smiled. The very fact that you ask this question shows why practice is needed. Practice is not about acquiring something you don't have, it is about seeing what you have never lost. It's like polishing a mirror covered in dust. The mirror's capacity to reflect was never gone, but you must wipe away the dust to see it shine. Practice removes those obscurations, it does not create the mirror's brightness. Ananda appeared thoughtful. Teacher, are you saying that our striving to attain liberation actually blocks us from realizing it? Exactly, the Buddha replied. The moment you think, I am practicing and I want liberation, you set up a barrier between yourself and true freedom. Authentic practice means practicing without attachment. Authentic liberation means letting go without clinging to the idea of release. An older monk asked, Teacher, if liberation is innate, why are sentient beings still entangled in the cycle of suffering? The Buddha answered, Imagine a person trapped in a nightmare experiencing terror. The solution is not to change the dream, but to awaken from it. People remain in the cycle of suffering because they do not realize they are inherently free. They remain wrapped in illusions spun by their own minds, unable to wake up. Maitreya Bodhisattva spoke again, Teacher, if liberation is already complete within us, how can we recognize that fact? The Buddha offered a gentle reply, Maitreya, when you stop chasing after liberation, it naturally reveals itself. When you release the idea of nirvana as something far away, you find it has been here all along. It is like someone desperately clenching a fist in search of an open palm. Only by releasing the fist can one see the palm that has always been there. Another disciple, Mahakasyapa, asked, Teacher, then what is the purpose of daily practices like meditation and reciting the teachings? They are skillful means, the Buddha explained. Much like a boat carrying you across a river, they help you realize your own mind. But once you arrive, there is no need to drag the boat along. These practices are not liberation itself, they merely guide you toward discovering it. When you fully realize that liberation is already within you, every aspect of practice becomes a natural part of everyday life, free from the thought, I am practicing. A newly ordained monk asked timidly, Teacher, how do we know for sure that we are liberated? The Buddha's response was both simple and profound. When you no longer wonder whether you are free, that is true freedom. Liberation is not a fixed state. It is an ease that transcends all states. The sun does not question its own radiance. The ocean does not question its own vastness. At that, Maitreya Bodhisattva had a breakthrough. Teacher, I see now that the only reason I couldn't find liberation was because I was always searching for it. Yes, Maitreya, the Buddha said with warm approval, you have reached the heart of the matter. Liberation is not something to be found, it is understanding that nothing has ever been lost. I have long said all beings possess awakened nature. That nature is your inherent freedom, only hidden by misunderstanding. An elderly monk then asked, Teacher, if liberation is innate, where does affliction come from? The Buddha answered, Afflictions are like clouds covering the moon. Though the moon is hidden, its light is undiminished. Afflictions are simply movements of the mind, like waves on the surface of water. We may call them waves, but they never cease to be water. Similarly, the mind may manifest as afflictions, yet the mind's true essence remains untouched. Knowing this, you will not be trapped by afflictions, but observe their nature instead. Ananda summarized, Teacher, as you explain, liberation is not a goal, but a realization. It's not an endpoint, but a beginning. Not something gained, but something recognized as already present. Well said, Ananda, the Buddha responded. Hence I say, liberation is right here and now, complete in itself, received neither from outside nor from elsewhere. Once you truly comprehend this, your practice takes on a new dimension. It's no longer about becoming something different, but about understanding who you have always been. Maitreya asked, Teacher, how should we practice in our daily activities? In the most natural way, answered the Buddha. When you eat, simply eat. When you walk, simply walk. Do not cling to the past or yearn for the future. Dwell fully in the present moment. The moment you rest wholeheartedly in the present, you are in harmony with liberation. It's not somewhere else, neither in the past nor in the future. Sariputta then raised a caution. Teacher, some might misunderstand your teaching, thinking that if liberation is already present, they need no practice at all. The Buddha nodded. That misunderstanding is common. Think of someone who possesses a treasure but doesn't know where it is hidden. For that person, it is as if there were no treasure at all. Practice doesn't create freedom, it reveals it. That is why I speak of nothing to attain. True attainment lies in realizing that you have never lost anything. At this, a nun rose and asked respectfully, Teacher, if liberation is innate, what is nirvana? How does it differ from liberation? The Buddha smiled. That is an excellent question. Liberation refers to release. Nirvana describes the nature of existence when that release is fully realized. Nirvana is not a place but a state of awareness in which you see birth and death as illusions. In truth, there is no coming or going. It is like I have often said, there is no place from which one truly arrives, and no place to which one truly departs. Maitreya Bodhisattva's understanding was now complete. Bowing deeply, he said, Teacher, your words have cleared away the confusion of many years. I was always reaching out to find enlightenment, forgetting to turn inward and recognize my own mind. The Buddha gazed at him affectionately. Maitreya, the fact that you have awakened to this will serve you well in becoming a future Buddha. Treasure what you have realized today. It will guide you toward genuine awakening. Addressing the assembly, the Buddha concluded, My friends, this gathering has reached its end. Reflect deeply on what I've shared. Liberation is right here and now, complete in itself, received neither from outside nor from elsewhere. Those are not just words to remember, but truths to be experienced and lived. When you go back to your daily lives, do not merely recall this sentence, strive to integrate it. That is genuine practice. The assembly dispersed, each participant carrying the echo of that pivotal teaching. Liberation is right here and now, complete in itself, received neither from outside nor from elsewhere. Some awakened on the spot, others would gradually come to embody it. All, however, were transformed at the core. In just one phrase, the Buddha had revealed the ultimate reality of practice. True liberation is never far off. It is but a single realization away. It is not granted by any external force, but recognized through one's own inner clarity. The moment you stop pursuing liberation as if it were elsewhere, you find that it has quietly been present all along. As the Buddha had declared, you already possess awakened nature. You simply forgot your original face. In that instant, centuries of confusion fell away, and the path of each seeker stood clearly revealed. Liberation is not on a distant shore. It is in the very breath you take right now. It is not gained by external striving, but by uncovering what has always been within. When we at last grasp that liberation is right here and now, complete in itself, we recognize that our journey was never about obtaining something new, but about reclaiming what we never truly lost. And paradoxically, once we stop clinging to the idea of liberation, liberation shines forth in every aspect of our life. That, as the Buddha taught, is the highest wisdom and the gateway back to our true home.